He was a billionaire and a very powerful man, but his world was a silent prison because of his son. She was a stranger from a far-off land, seeking shelter in his giant, lonely home. They met in the quiet room of a boy who could not hear. The father saw a broken child. The maid saw a child being haunted. When she reached into his ear and pulled out the thing living inside, it didn't just give him back his hearing. It started a forbidden love, and it woke up a dangerous enemy from the past who was now coming for them all. Park Ji-ho's penthouse was at the top of Seoul, so high up that the city below looked like a river of sparkling lights. But inside, the house was drowning in a deep, heavy silence. This was the silence of his son. Ji-ho stood by the huge window. He wore a sharp, black suit that cost more than a car. He was a billionaire, a man people feared. But right now, he just felt like a failed father. His 5-year-old son, Young Jae for short, sat on the floor. He was playing with colorful blocks, stacking them quietly. He had fluffy black hair and big, brown eyes. But those eyes never looked up when someone entered the room. Jae was born deaf. He lived in a world without sound. Jae's mother, a very elegant woman named Bora, had left them. She loved fancy parties and shopping more than anything. When she learned her son would never hear, she was angry. "I didn't sign up for this. I won't waste my life on a disabled boy," she had yelled before leaving for Paris. She never called, never wrote. "Mr. Park," a gentle voice said. Ji-ho turned. It was Tina, the new maid from Senegal in Africa. She was tall and moved gracefully in her simple blue dress. Her skin was a beautiful dark brown, and her eyes were the color of warm honey. They looked both kind and very smart. "Jae's bath is ready," she said softly. Ji-ho just nodded, not saying a word. He watched as Tina walked over to Jae. She didn't grab him or talk in a loud, fake voice. She knelt on the floor beside him, so she was at his level. She waited patiently. After a moment, Jae looked up from his blocks. For the first time, Ji-ho saw his son really see another person. A tiny spark of hope lit in Ji-ho's chest. Later that night, a heartbreaking sound broke the quiet. Jae was crying in his bed. It wasn't a normal cry. It was a scared, painful sob. Ji-ho stood frozen outside the door, feeling helpless. He could hear Tina inside, whispering softly to calm Jae down. He pushed the door open just a crack. The room was dim. Jae was tossing and turning, tears on his cheeks. Tina was holding him, rocking him gently. Suddenly, Tina went completely still. She leaned very close to Jae's ear, her body tense. She frowned, her eyes narrowing. She gently brushed his hair back and peered closer. Her breath hitched. She reached for the small penlight on the nightstand. Her hand was shaking. She clicked it on and shone the light into Jae's ear. Her eyes grew wide with shock and horror. She looked up and saw Ji-ho watching from the doorway. Her face was pale. "Mr. Park," she whispered, her voice trembling. "There is something, alive, in his ear." Ji-ho's blood ran cold. Alive? The word echoed in his mind, ugly and impossible. This wasn't a medical condition. This was a nightmare. He rushed to the bed, his fatherly fear overpowering his billion-dollar composure. "What do you mean, alive?" he demanded, his voice a harsh whisper. Tina's honey-colored eyes were wide with a fear that was not for herself, but for the child. "It is moving, sir. I saw it move. It is a worm. A very thin, pale worm." She spoke with a grim certainty, as if she knew this evil intimately. Jae whimpered, sensing the panic in the adults towering over him. A worm, in his son's head, feeding, growing, blocking the world out. Rage, hot and blinding, boiled up inside Ji-ho. This was no accident. This was an attack. "Get it out," Ji-ho commanded, his voice shaking with a fury he could barely control. "Now." Tina nodded, her face set in determined lines. "I need tweezers. The longest, thinnest ones you have. And a bowl of rubbing alcohol. Quickly." Ji-ho ran. He burst into his private bathroom, yanking drawers open until he found a polished steel kit. His hands trembled as he grabbed the tweezers and a small bottle of alcohol. When he returned, Tina had Jay lying still, his head tilted, his little chest rising and falling in quick, scared breaths. "Hold the light for me, please," Tina instructed, her voice suddenly calm and focused. Jiho, the mighty Park Jiho, took the penlight without a word, his large hand illuminating the tiny, vulnerable ear canal. Tina's hands were miraculously steady. She leaned in, the fine tip of the tweezers disappearing into the darkness. Jiho held his breath. The only sound was Jay's soft crying. Tina's brow was furrowed in concentration. She was not just pulling, she was waiting. Then she moved. A quick, precise pinch, and a slow, careful pull. Out it came. In the grip of the tweezers was a wriggling, translucent worm, as thin as a thread and about an inch long. It twisted and squirmed, a vile, living thing that had been stealing his son's world. Tina immediately dropped it into the bowl of alcohol Jiho held. The creature thrashed for a moment in the clear liquid before going still forever. For a heartbeat, there was silence. Jay had stopped crying. He blinked, his eyes confused. And then, the house's central heating system clicked on with a soft thump. At the sound, Jay jumped. His eyes shot wide open, looking around the room for the source of the strange feeling he had just felt in his ears. He had heard. A choked sob escaped Jiho. He fell to his knees beside the bed, his hands covering his face. 5 years of silence, broken by a monster and a miracle worker. He looked up at Tina, tears streaming down his face. "How did you know?" he breathed. But before Tina could answer, a new, chilling thought slammed into Jiho's mind. His eyes snapped from the dead worm in the bowl to Tina's guilty, fearful face. This was no ordinary worm. Tina had known exactly what it was and how to remove it. She had been too sure. The real question wasn't just how she knew. The real, terrifying question was, did she put it there? The air in the nursery was electric. Jay, who had just flinched at the sound of the heating system, was now staring at his own hands, clapping them together softly as if hearing the noise for the very first time. A look of pure, wondrous joy spread across his little face. Jiho stared, his own eyes flooding with tears. He fell to his knees beside the bed, his strong body shaking with sobs of relief. 5 years of silence, broken. He looked from his son's happy, confused face to the dead worm in the bowl, and then to Tina. This woman, this stranger, had done in 5 minutes what a dozen famous doctors could not do in 5 years. "Tina," he breathed, his voice full of awe and gratitude. "How? How did you know? How did you know what it was and how to get it out?" Tina placed a comforting hand on Jay's back, her own eyes glistening with happy tears for the boy. She looked at Jiho, her expression honest and open. "I learned of this in my country, in Senegal," she explained softly. "In my village, this creature is called an Unyazi worm. It is very rare, but it is known. It does not belong here in Korea. It could not have found its way into his ear on its own." Jiho's immense joy suddenly froze. Her words were a bucket of cold water. It does not belong here. It could not have found its way on its own. His mind, sharp and trained for danger, started to connect the horrible dots. He thought of Bora. Her constant fussing over Jay as a baby, always applying special oils to his skin and hair. She had said it was for his health. He thought of her growing coldness, her desperation to leave. He remembered her cruel words, "I won't be stuck with a deaf boy." The truth hit him with the force of a physical blow. It was not a tragic accident. It was deliberate. Bora had done this. She had put this creature in her own son's ear to make him deaf, to give herself a heartless excuse to abandon her family. A storm of rage and grief threatened to overwhelm him. But as he looked at Tina, who had risked everything to tell him this painful truth, his anger was matched by a profound, overwhelming thankfulness. "You have not only given my son his hearing," Jiho said, his voice thick with emotion. "You have given me the truth. Thank you, Tina." He reached out and, for the first time, gently took her hand. It was a gesture of respect, of alliance, of a bond beginning to form in the ruins of his old life. Just then, Jay, soothed by Tina's familiar presence, reached out and wrapped his small hand around both of theirs. He looked up at Tina and gave a small, trusting smile. In the months that followed the miracle, the silent penthouse transformed into a home filled with beautiful noise. Jay's world was a constant discovery of sound, from the simple joy of his own laughter to the music Tina played while she worked. Jiho watched his son blossom, and he watched Tina. The quiet maid became the warm, steady center of their world. She was no longer just an employee. She was their guardian angel, and with each passing day, Jiho felt his cold, guarded heart opening to her in a way he never thought possible. One sunny afternoon, as Jiho watched Tina teach Jay how to clap along to a Senegalese folk song, his heart felt full. He was happier than he had been in years. This, he thought, was what a family was supposed to feel like. It was in this perfect, peaceful moment that his phone buzzed violently on the coffee table. He glanced at the screen. The name that flashed there sent a jolt of pure ice water through his veins, shattering the warmth of the day. It was from an unknown number, but the message was clear. I heard my son can hear. I am coming home. A mother belongs with her child. We need to talk. Bora. The text message was a poisoned dart to Jiho's heart. He stared at the words. A mother belongs with her child, feeling a rage so cold it made his hands tremble. After all she had done, she now had the audacity to claim motherhood. Tina saw the color drain from his face. Jiho? What is it? She asked, her voice laced with immediate concern. He showed her the phone. Tina's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes wide with fear, not for herself, but for Jay. The happy little boy, now giggling at a cartoon on the television, had no idea the woman who had cursed him was coming back. She can't take him, Tina whispered, a fierce protectiveness flashing in her honey-colored eyes. It was the look of a lioness, not a maid. I will never let that happen, Jiho vowed, his voice a low, dangerous promise. For the next 2 weeks, a tense silence fell over the penthouse. The joy was overshadowed by a looming dread. Jiho had his lawyers on standby. He increased security. He prepared for a war. The storm arrived on a rainy Tuesday evening. The doorbell chimed, sharp and insistent. Jiho took a deep breath and nodded at Tina, who immediately scooped up Jay and carried him to his soundproofed playroom, whispering reassuring words. When Jiho opened the door, Bora stood there, looking as elegant and untouchable as the day she had left. She was drenched in diamonds and a sense of entitlement. Jiho, she said, brushing past him as if she still owned the place. Her eyes scanned the room, noting the cheerful clutter of Jay's toys with a flicker of distaste. Where is my son? And where is this servant I've heard so much about? As if summoned by the insult, Tina emerged from the hallway. She had not hidden. She stood tall, her back straight, no longer in a maid's uniform but in a simple, elegant dress Jiho had bought for her. She looked beautiful and dignified. Bora's eyes narrowed into venomous slits. She let out a cruel, mocking laugh. Oh, I see. You've upgraded the staff, I see. Tell me, does she clean the house before or after she warms your bed? Jiho took a threatening step forward, but Tina spoke first, her voice calm and clear, cutting through the hatred. He is not your son, Tina said, her gaze steady. A mother protects her child. You tried to break him. Bora's face went pale, but she quickly masked it with fury. How dare you? You know nothing. You're just a poor African maid he's using. You are wrong, a new, firm voice said from the doorway. They all turned. Mr. Kim, Jiho's oldest friend and business partner, stood there, his face grim. He was the only person outside the family who knew the full truth. Bora, Mr. Kim said, his voice heavy with disappointment. I was there when the specialists gave up. I know the worm is not from here. I know you were the only one who applied those special oils to Jay for months. He shook his head. I kept your secret out of respect for the past, but I will not let you destroy this family again. I told Jiho you were coming. I will stand as a witness to your character. Bora was trapped. Her own ally had turned against her. Her lies were crumbling. Her eyes, wild with panic and hatred, darted from Mr. Time, Kim's stern face to Jiho's cold one, and finally landed on Tina. With a shriek of pure rage, she lunged at Tina, her sharp nails aimed for her face. But Tina was ready. She moved with a surprising speed, catching Bora's wrist firmly in midair, holding the shrieking woman back with effortless strength. "You have no power here," Tina said, her voice quiet but absolute. Suddenly, a small, clear voice rang out from the hallway. "Stop! Leave my Tina alone." It was Jay. He was standing there, his little fists clenched, his face set in a determined frown. He was not looking at his father or Mr. Kim. He was looking directly at the woman who had hurt him, the woman he barely remembered, and for the first time, he used the voice she had stolen to defend the woman he loved. Jay's command, "Leave my Tina alone," echoed in the entryway, a powerful and shocking sound. For Bora, it was the ultimate defeat. The son she had deliberately silenced was now using his clear, strong voice to defend another woman. The fight drained out of her, replaced by a stunned, humiliated silence. Jiho looked at Mr. Kim and gave a single, sharp nod. Understanding, Mr. Kim stepped forward, firmly taking Bora's arm. "It's time for you to leave, Bora. You are not welcome here," he said, his voice leaving no room for argument. He guided her, stumbling and speechless, out the door and toward the elevator. The grand door clicked shut, and the tense atmosphere shattered, replaced by a profound relief. Jiho immediately knelt and opened his arms. Jay ran into them, burying his face in his father's shoulder. "You were so brave, my son," Jiho whispered, holding him tight. Over Jay's head, his eyes met Tina's. They were filled with more gratitude and emotion than words could ever express. In the peaceful days that followed, something beautiful and unspoken solidified between Jiho and Tina. They were a team, partners in raising and protecting Jay. One evening, under the starlit terrace sky, Jiho found Tina looking out at the city. "He asked me a question today," Jiho said softly, coming to stand beside her. Tina turned, her expression warm. "What did he ask?" "He asked if you would stay with us forever," Jiho replied, his heart pounding. "And I told him that I very much hope you will." He took her hand gently. "Tina, you have given me back my son. You have given us both a family. I don't want you to be our maid anymore. I want you to be my wife. Will you marry me?" Tina's eyes filled with happy tears. She wasn't being offered a job or a title. She was being offered a heart, a family, a home. "Yes, Jiho," she whispered. "Yes." Weeks later, the penthouse was filled with laughter and the vibrant colors of Senegalese decor for their small, private wedding. The day of the wedding was perfect. The penthouse was transformed into a garden of white flowers, a beautiful mix of Korean and Senegalese traditions. Jiho, looking more at peace than anyone had ever seen him, stood waiting. When Tina appeared, she took his breath away. She wasn't a maid. She was a queen in a stunning white dress, her head held high with grace and love. Jay, their proud ring-bearer, beamed with happiness. As the judge began to speak, no one noticed the figure disguised in a catering uniform slipping through the service entrance. Just as the judge said, "You may now kiss the bride," a shrill scream ripped through the ceremony. "No, he is my son!" Bora, her hair wild and her eyes blazing with madness, lunged from behind a floral arrangement and grabbed Jay's arm, trying to yank him away from the altar. Chaos erupted, but Jiho was prepared. He had hired extra security for this exact reason. In a flash, 2 large bodyguards were on her, pulling her hands away from a terrified Jay. "Let me go, he's mine!" Bora shrieked, fighting like a wild animal. Jiho shielded Tina and Jay behind him, his face a mask of cold fury. He looked at the head of security and gave a single, commanding nod. The security chief held up his phone, the screen showing a live feed. "The police are already in the lobby, Mr. Park. We have her on camera assaulting a child and trespassing. It's over." Bora's screams turned to desperate pleas as the police officers arrived and handcuffed her. "Ji-ho, please, I'm his mother. You can't do this." As the police led the kicking and screaming Bora away, she locked her hate-filled eyes on Tina. "This isn't over. He'll never be yours. You're nothing," she screamed, her voice echoing down the hall before the elevator doors closed, silencing her forever. The wedding was saved. Holding his weeping son and his new wife close, Ji-ho knew the monster from their past was finally gone. They were free. As the three of them stood together, finally a real family, the wedding guests erupted into applause, celebrating not just a marriage, but a victory. But as Tina smiled through her tears of relief, a single, chilling thought crossed her mind. Bora's final threat. Was it truly over? Or was this just the end of a battle? We hope you were on the edge of your seat. Thank you so much for watching. If your heart was racing with Ji-ho and Tina, please show your love by giving this video a like, sharing it with someone who loves a dramatic story, and subscribing for more epic romance thriller tales. Let us know in the comments where in the world you are watching from. We love connecting with our global audience.